Greetings. This is James Gwynn here for a daily devotion. Appreciate you joining me. I love the story of Jeremiah. Jeremiah is a prophet that worked in very difficult circumstances during a very difficult time in both human history and the history of the people of Israel, God's people. And he was not a popular prophet. He brought news of gloom and doom when people didn't want that kind of news. And so he was mistreated for saying the truth. In the weeks that we've been through and the time that we still have ahead of us, that seems somewhat reminiscent to me because a lot of the news that I hear online is not good. They're talking about the coronavirus and how that it takes a long time for it to show up. And because it takes so long for the symptoms to develop that people can get infected without knowing it. And so it's a very sneaky thing that we're dealing with, sort of as an entire human race. And Jeremiah was dealing in a time of history where he had to deal with some very difficult things. He was telling them about God's punishment and pronouncement, and he was mistreated for all of that. But then one of the interesting things is when things are at their very worst, Jeremiah, in conversation of prayer with God, is told by God to go buy a field. And this is in the 32nd chapter of Jeremiah. And so he's talking about how God, the Lord told me that Hananel, the son of Shallum, would come and request to buy a field at Anathoth, the territory of Benjamin. This is something that normally you wouldn't do. I mean, why, if you're going to be thrown into exile, that you would go buy a field? But God had Jeremiah do that as a sign that there was hope. And that's the message that I bring forth to us today, is to simply remember that coronavirus is temporary. The amount of devastation that it might cause in the world is yet unknown. However, from looking at what's happening overseas, we can expect it to get worse before it gets better. But the message of Jeremiah is, even in the midst of times like that, to look for God's message of hope. How we can be hope to one another, and we can lift up and encourage one another, but how we can also remember the words of Jeremiah when he shared, this is in the 29th chapter, the Lord says, I will show my concern for you and keep my promise to bring you back home. I alone know the plans that I have for you. Plans to bring you prosperity and not disaster, to bring about the future that you hope for. And then you will call to me, and I will come to you, and I will answer you. You will seek me, and you will find me, because you will seek me with your heart. So as we feel social distanced from one another, what I encourage you today is with a message that you don't have to be distanced from God. And through Jesus Christ, we remain close to one another. My message in all of this is you don't have to go to church to be the church. So let us continue to be the church, not just here at Ackworth, but to our neighbors, to our family, and to all those we come in close proximity to. I close with this final message out of Jeremiah. This is at the end of chapter 32. And this is how it goes. Then they will be my people, and I will be their God. I will give them a single purpose in life, to honor me for all time, for their own good and for the good of their descendants. Let it be so for you this day. God bless.